Welcome back to another Fantasy Puck video, guys. It's Chris, and today we're going to be talking about high risk, high reward draft targets. These are players that are in your draft that you should be targeting, but do have a high element of risk to them. Some might even outweigh the reward. That is on you guys to decide, but we have 6 options for you here in this video. Before we get started, guys, quick update on the Fantasy Puck Patreon leagues. We had, I think, literally 14 or 15 signups in the past 48 hours. So we've decided to open up more leagues for you guys. So if you guys are interested in signing up for a more competitive, more engaging, more interactive and fun fantasy hockey experience, be sure to check those out. Those will be available on our Patreon as well. Mike just had the first league go underway in the Atlantic division. So check that out in our live section of our YouTube if you want to go see that. Also, just wanted to take a second to thank all you guys for all the love and support lately. Season's just around the corner. We still have a lot of content coming your guys' way right before that, so be sure to hit that subscribe button if you guys enjoy. But thank you so much for your support and everything lately. Let's get into the video. My first high-risk, high-reward draft target is Connor Bedard of the Chicago Blackhawks, and this is pretty much reflective of his ADP being so high at 35.6. I feel like if he was going roughly in the 4th or 5th round, I would be all over this guy, but the risk here is just completely dependent on how good you think this guy is really going to be in year one. Can he put up 35 goals? Can he put up, 200 to 300 even shots in a year? Does he have the capability of hitting 40? Does he have enough support around him to produce these high numbers? Does he need support around him to produce these high numbers? There's just so much talent with Bedard. I think he's going to be a generational player, but there's just so many question marks surrounding how Chicago is going to be. If this guy is in his own end for 60% of his shift, it's going to be difficult for him to hit those point totals, but I do think this guy is going to absolutely eat on the power play. I could definitely see him being around the 35 goal mark, and the talent is definitely there. It's just the situation in Chicago that provides the risk, especially because his ADP is so high. Next is Fredrik Andersen of the Carolina Hurricanes. This guy absolutely thrives when he is a high volume starter. His save percentage in the last 4 seasons where he's played more than 50 games are a 922, a 909, a 917, and a 918. Freddie is an absolute stud when he's healthy. He's such a good option on such a good defensive team. The main problem is that 2 of his last 4 seasons, he's been injured and has played less than 35 games. And Carolina also has 2 very capable goalies that are able to come in and pick up that slack, which could interfere with Freddie's volume depending on whether or not he's able to win that starting job back. We were anticipating Fredrik Andersen and Pyotr Kochetkov were going to be the 2 goalies in Carolina this year, and we were expecting more of a split, but if Freddie stays healthy and they end up starting Kochetkov in the AHL, which it looks like they're going to do, he could get back to his normal volume, but the issue really just comes with the health concerns, and so that's why he's got a little bit of risk involved with him. Up next, I have Devon Levi of the Buffalo Sabres, and I've been seeing him fall in drafts a lot recently. Mike was able to get him really late in that FPPL league stream, if you guys go check that out. But Levi, it's really just dependent on how much volume he's going to get, and does the hype precede him to be this elite goaltender in Buffalo. There's a lot of risk involved here, guys. Number one, Levi is the only non-waiver eligible goalie, which means if Buffalo needs to send down a goaltender to the AHL without putting one through waivers, they might end up choosing Levi just because that's the option with him. The other thing is that his play, if he is the main starter in Buffalo, which we are expecting him to be, it's completely dependent on how good defensively the Sabres are, and they weren't great last year, and it doesn't look like they're going to be that much better this year. Down the stretch with the Sabres getting into the playoffs, he was that guy. He faced over 28 shots in every single game that he played last season, which were the 7 down the stretch. And in 4 of those 7 games, he had over a 929 save percentage. So there is some risk. There's still some unanswered questions here with Levi going into next season. But I think the reward is definitely there if he can solidify himself as the true #1 starter in Buffalo. A player that I wasn't initially going to put on this list, but it's become increasingly more concerning due to the fact that he could be in a situation where he's just held out with his contract during the start of the season. I'm not at the like concern level yet where I'm just completely off him in drafts. And given his ADP, it's honestly a really good pick. The problem is if he does hold out, he can't really be put on IR because then he would be a non-active player or just given the NA tag, and he's just going to sit on your team and hold a roster spot. But I'm really high on Zegras this year for the fact that I think that he's just too talented to be a 60-point guy. His ADP is reflective of the fact that he's had around 60 points the past 2 seasons, but I really think he's capable of being a point-a-game player in Anaheim. And it's just the fact that, you know, the contract is still an issue. There isn't really a lot in terms of any updates as to what's happening. Both him and Jamie Drysdale don't have contracts yet, and we're just now entering the true stages of preseason. So this concern, like I said, is still not to the point where I'm not looking to draft him, but it is getting increasingly more concerning. Another player in a similar situation is Patrick Kane, where this guy is just going to sit on your non-active and take up a roster spot because you can't put him on IR because he's technically not injured and doesn't have a contract. I think the difference between Kane and Zegras is we know the extended wait time that's going to be for Patrick Kane. He likely won't sign with the team for the first part of the season because of the hip injury and going through that kind of rehab process. It could be, I could potentially see a situation where a team just decides to sign him at like a very, very big discount because of the risk involved with his hip injury, and then just immediately put him on IR until he's ready to play. But the thing is with Kane, like, we just don't know the timeline just yet. We know it's extending into the season. We don't know if teams are looking to sign him. There's been rumors that like Buffalo's been looking at him. But the thing is, like, you're going to draft this guy late. I get that his ADP is super late, but you're still taking up a roster position to where you can draft and have somebody on your team that's going to impact your team within the first couple months of the season. So I get it, ADP 159. You look at that and you're like, well, it's so late in the draft. Is it really a risk? And absolutely it is. If you look at some of the players that were available in our sleepers videos, guys like Zach Werenski, Owen Tippett, all these like kind of deeper guys, Seth Jarvis, are around this range, and we have poised for really, really good seasons. And if you just bet on taking Patrick Kane and you have to sit him on your team for the first couple months of the year, like, you're putting yourself at an immediate disadvantage. So that's the kind of the risk and reward involved with guys like Zegras and Kane. Finishing up our list is Nikolaj Ehlers of the Winnipeg Jets, and a guy that, again, is just plagued with injuries. He never seems to play more than 65 games in a season. And to make matters worse, when he does play, he's seemingly hated by his coach. He played under 16 minutes last year, majority of which was on the third line, barely saw any power play time, and still only played a total of 45 games. This guy just cannot stay healthy. He needs to get out of Winnipeg. He needs a fresh start. He needs to play more than half a season, guys. I get, again, that it's a later draft pick, but there's still a lot of risk involved with this versus, you know, a guy that could just potentially end up on your IR that you've wasted a late pick on, where you could have grabbed somebody. Like, look at the example last year. Like, Martin Necas was one of my late round gems, and he ended up being potentially a league winner depending on where you got him. There were leagues where that guy was going undrafted. And if you're taking a shot at Ehlers, understand the risk involved with him. Yes, he's a good player. Yes, he hovers around a point a game with a really high shot volume, especially when he does play. But there is risk involved, and there is better options potentially available if you want to go with somebody safer. I'm just really concerned with Ehlers' situation in Winnipeg right now, and that's why he is a high risk, high reward target. That's going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to leave a like and hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed the content. We have so much more content still coming to you guys. I know training camp is just finishing up. We're into preseason now, so we have a lot of updates in terms of potentially where players are being played, who's playing with who, line combinations, all that good stuff coming to you guys soon. So be sure to stay tuned. I will see you guys in the next video. Have yourselves a fantastic rest of the day.